Coming up on American Medicine Today, water contamination at a U.S. naval base poisons thousands of military members and their families. U.S. Army Major Mandy Feindt joins us to explain the lasting effects she and her children are suffering as a result. Then Lian was incredibly active until waking up one morning with excruciating back pain. See how the patented Bonatti spine procedures were able to alleviate her pain right on the operating table. Finally, a Maryland candidate for Attorney General is pushing for an investigation into Anthony Fauci for leading Americans astray. Michael Peroutka joins us to discuss any legal action Fauci could face. Is there a chance someone could finally be held accountable? Find out coming up on American Medicine Today.
Featuring cutting-edge science and medical innovation, touching personal stories of recovery from pain, along with political, social, and healthcare issues plaguing our nation. This is American Medicine Today, brought to you by the Bonatti Spine Institute and Alfred Bonatti, MD.
Welcome to American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Bonatti alongside our friends Ethan Euchre and world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. Alfred Bonatti. So most of us have heard about the water contamination issues at U.S. Marine Base Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. But that case is just the tip of the iceberg. Joining us now is U.S. Army Major Mandy Feindt, who is one of over 93,000 military members and their families who were affected by a jet fuel spill in Hawaii that contaminated the U.S. Navy's drinking water back in November of 2021. Welcome to the program, Mandy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Why don't you tell us your story and how your family came to be affected by this contaminated water on base?
Certainly. So like you said, I am active duty Army. We were stationed on Oahu. We were working, living, and our children were going to school or daycare on base. So essentially, we could not escape the exposure. We moved into that house in May of 2021. It's important to note that because going back and looking at court documents, that's when the first massive spill actually happened. But we were not ever notified of that. There were a couple of other small spills that happened throughout the summer. And then on the 20th of November, there was no denying it. Approximately 20,000 gallons of jet fuel leaked, and it spewed for about 30 hours before the Navy even intervened. They notified the Department of Health the next day. People started self-reporting just after Thanksgiving. But we were told on the 29th of November, again, of 2021, by the base commander that yes, folks are, they understand that folks are reporting certain things, but there was no indication that the water was not safe. In fact, the base commander and all the brass they told us in an email, they were drinking the water still. It wasn't until a couple of weeks later that our family got really sick. It took us, based on where we were located, it took us a while to get sick, but on the 11th of December, so you can see it went on for quite some time, we ended up in the hospital on the 11th and the 13th, and then we evacuated our home and spent about 3 months living in a hotel with a 1 and a 3-year-old. And ever since then, there has just been this overarching narrative of, the water's been cleaned up now, the water is safe. There's no indications that there's ongoing health impacts, symptoms are fleeting, but I'll tell you, we received a compassionate reassignment. I fought like hell to get it. And we're in 4 to 6 appointments, every single week, from Children's Hospital to, specialty appointments, testing, procedures, surgeries. My husband's had 5 surgeries, exploratory surgery. It has been a nightmare that has truly not ended. It's been 11 months of this for us.
What were the symptoms of this? And you, from what I understand, didn't taste anything off in the water for a while. I mean, when did the word get out, A, and B, what were these symptoms that required hospitalization for you and your family?
Certainly. So you're right. We did not taste it. I did smell it eventually, but we had at that point stopped drinking the water. The symptoms for us and what landed us in the hospital, initially like a lot of vertigo, just dizziness, kind of brain fog, nausea. I mean, my son was 1, he had never thrown up before. I mean, just projectile vomiting, diarrhea. I mean, I hate to admit it, but I was in adult depends for about a week because I could not control my bowels, and hot flashes. It was a feeling that I had never felt before. And all 4 of us were that way.
They never took responsibility
right? They just made everyone think it was in their own minds. It's nothing to be concerned over. And they allowed over 93,000 families to be affected in this way. That seems rather heartless.
It's been, you are correct. For me as a service member, as you can imagine, it's been, sort of the ultimate form of institutional betrayal. This is my own employer. I have been part of the military for almost 17 years now. I love serving in the military. And, but as you can imagine, like, I raised my right hand to do this. I volunteered for this. This is the inherent risk that I assumed when I joined. But my children, innocent children, my husband who's a civilian, innocent civilians, American civilians on American soil being poisoned by American asset, like, it's unacceptable. It's disheartening for me to have deployed and to been in the combat zone and to now come back to American soil and be in the same toxic environment of a combat zone. It's horrendous and it's horrifying as a parent.
Mandy, I guess you and a bunch of other protesters went right to the doorstep of the EPA to protest. I'm not sure when, within the past few weeks. What happened with that? Where did that go? What came of that?
Protester. I've never in a million years thought that would be, I'd be labeled as a protester, but
you know what I mean.
When the government has poisoned your children and tried to cover it up and they're not taking care of you, you're left with no other choice. So we did. On the 20th of November, I joined this organization called Safer EPA, and several different folks from the environmental space came together. We had a rally. We spoke directly to the EPA. I've actually met with the administrator of the EPA. I met with Michael Reagan when he came back in February. I spoke to him. He's looked me in the eye. He's met my children. He knows what's going on here. But this was, sort of a public plea, a national cry for help to do better. That week in DC was really successful. We ended up meeting with 13 different congressional leaders. I had a meeting with the Undersecretary of the Army and the Army Surgeon General. So a super successful week. We are seeing some things slowly happen, at a snail's pace, but at least we can say that we've gone there, we've fought, we've looked folks in the eyes, and now it's, the ball's in their court to do the right thing here.
Contaminated water has happened on other bases too. It's not just Lejeune. It's not just yours in Hawaii. It's happening everywhere. Do we know why?
I don't know the answer to that. I just know that you're right. It is not the first time. History has certainly repeated itself. This is a mirror image of what happened at Camp Lejeune. And we're certainly very read in with that community. They have opened their arms to us and have really just helped us navigate this unimaginable crisis that we're all in.
Have they taken any steps to try to rectify this?
Yes, ma'am. So this has been, like I said, it's been almost a year. We're coming up on a year. The Secretary of Defense several months ago made an assessment to finally shut down Red Hill, which is the bulk storage facility. And it's been around for 80 plus years. So that is a huge step in the right direction for folks who have been poisoned, but also for the people of Hawaii who have been fighting this asset for many years that has polluted their environment. And so, yes, there is a plan in place to shut down this facility and to defuel, but they're talking 2 years before that'll happen. So yes, but no.
Yeah. Mandy, how are you and your family doing now? Have you recovered?
No. Oh gosh, no. It's people, like I mentioned, we got a compassionate reassignment, but and I think we had this false hope that we'd get out of the environment and things would be much better, but I'm being taken sort of out of an active duty unit and placed in a soldier recovery unit to prioritize our medical health. We've got gastrointestinal issues. My son has pulmonary issues at 2 years old now, is on an intense dose of steroids to try to help the healing process. And we're flying our daughter out to LA in a couple of weeks to do more testing on her brain to get a better understanding of what truly we're dealing with when it comes to her, and she's 4. Jet fuel exposure is not widely studied. So we are truly at the mercy of science here and really great doctors who are taking us seriously and who care.
Let's hope they finally take responsibility and clean up this hazardous mess.
Thank you so much.
Make sure you stay tuned. Coming up after the break, a story of recovery. World-renowned Dr. Bonatti created the Bonatti spine procedures to minimize surgery, scarring, and recovery. 70,000 procedures have resulted in 98.75% satisfaction. Over half our patients suffer from failed surgeries at other facilities. Bonatti succeeds where others fail.
Lian is a nurse in Tennessee who enjoys staying active.
I'm a dialysis nurse. I work at dialysis almost like 20-some years. So I love to cook. Exercise, that's my favorite thing to do. I'm just turning 50. I love like spin class, and I did some body combat, body pump, and yoga. So just different kind of cardio plus strength training. Yeah, I go gym pop about at least 3 times a week, sometimes 4 or 5. So it just depends on my schedule.
Over the summer, Lian began experiencing sciatic pain that wouldn't go away.
I always have a low back pain. I have low back pain at least 15 years. Then a lot of time I do some stretch, do some yoga class. It gone away. So I never did bother go see any doctor or anything. Toward end August, I was doing a body combat in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. Initially, I had some sciatic nerve pain after the class. I went to the local chiropractor, get an appointment, and then she did an x-ray. And then she looked at the x-ray. X-ray is very unstable. That's what she told me. And like the L4 and L5, like slicking out, have some fracture between all the parts of defection. I never recall any accident or fall or anything. So after the class, and then that afternoon, I experienced some pain, which is from my right side, my right button, and toward my leg.
The pain rapidly worsened, sending her to an urgent care facility where they prescribed her steroid packs and muscle relaxers.
Pain was very painful. My right side, all the way down my leg. So I was seeing chiropractor that Friday. Of course, the weekend. So she sent me have an MRI, gonna be follow up with. So at the weekend, I can't even tolerate the pain. I have to go minor clinic. They give me the steroid pack and muscle relax. I will have a hard time to sleep, to moving around, to do like daily activity. Because I can't even walk, can't even stand. I have to buy a little roller chair, just roll around in the house. When I stood up, the pain is like feeling burning, sharp pain through my lower leg, up my upper leg. It just feels like my life is over. I can't walk, I can't stand, I can't do anything.
Desperate for help, she made an appointment with a neurosurgeon near her home in Tennessee.
I get an appointment to see a chiropractor. And of course, they can't prescribe me any medication. All they did the x-ray. They don't want to touch anything because she told me that's very unstable in the low lumbar. I make appointment with my local neurology surgeon for evaluation. He told me that I need a L4 and L5 spine fusion. That's the only way permanent fix it for my situation. And he told me exactly what they're going to do, They're going to fuse the 4 and 5 one piece. They take a disc out, put the cage in there. Of course, they put some bone graft there, so allow them to grow a piece. And then put the screw and rod holding both sides, the bone. So that is very scary. I did not want any screw and knot in my back. I told my surgeon, I said, I don't want to do fusion. But he wanted me to go ahead, schedule, get it done. I said, just let me go home think. So I did more research. Because that's something I really don't want to do. So I Google it and then do a lot of research. Fusion causes a lot of problem later on. It affects the joint, either upper joint or lower joint. And I'm 50, but I'm not young, not old. I don't want to be, have screw around in my back. But if this is the only choice, I don't have any option.
Lian learned at the Bonati Spine Institute, hardware is never used, drastically reducing the risk of infection and allowing for a faster recovery time and a quicker return to life, pain-free.
Well, I found out Bonati Spine Institute, and they don't do fusion. So initially, I go on the website, they give me a first call, right? It's some kind of evaluation. And then they call me, talk to me. Then after that, and then she sent me to patient advocate. We and her be talking back and forth quite a little bit. So I sent an MRI over here, and then she say they're gonna let the surgeon look at it. See, I'm candidate.
Lian suffered from a condition known as spondylolisthesis, where one of her vertebrae slipped out of alignment with the spinal column, putting pressure on the spinal cord or nerve root. In Lian's case, this was caused by a pars defect in her L4-L5 facet joint.
Well, Dr. Bernard called me the next day morning. He looked at the MRI. They told me that I have spondylolisthesis. And I guess a stress fracture between the 4 and 5 bilateral pars defect. He's saying that I need to have 3 procedures. I said, oh my God, 3 procedures. I would never know my back is that kind of shape. That's just a nightmare.
Hearing how severe her condition was, Lian booked a flight immediately and arrived at the Bonati Spine Institute the next morning for her initial evaluation and had the first of her 3 procedures that same day.
So he told me that, then asked me how soon I can get here. I said, well, I'm going to get a flight ticket right away. So next day morning, the same day we get the ticket, and next day morning we fly here. So when the initially coming in here, and then I see, some of the patient walking in, they did like probably similar procedure like what I get. And they walking, and then I have talked to certain patient while they in the lobby waiting. It makes me feel more confident.
At the Bonati Spine Institute, procedures are performed using conscious IV sedation, where the patient remains awake and able to communicate with their surgeon to ensure the source of their pain is eliminated before they leave the operating table.
I like it. I really like it because I don't want to be go sleep. I want to be awake some. They told me if my back hurting, just tell back, your leg hurting, leg,
Pain here?
No.
Pain here?
No, sir.
Pain in the back?
No, sir.
Back?
No.
So after the surgery, they take me to the recovery room. Dr. Bernard come in. He did a little exam, get me hold my legs up, do all that, then he gone. Here's, I guess, look like everything's okay. Right now, I deal with more pain in the incision side, and that's it.
It's giving us both time off work.
Still feeling good? Me and my husband, anytime we spend together. Kind of look straight when you're walking. Don't look down. Together is good.
He told me the first couple of weeks, make sure just walk. Don't do anything. Just walk. Walk is your best exercise right now.
Lian wants everyone to know that you don't have to have a spinal fusion. There are other options. She highly recommends anyone with neck or back pain contact the Bonati Spine Institute.
Oh, yeah, I would definitely tell them, let them know that you have an option. You don't have to do a spine fusion. They could take care of your back. You can walk again.
Bonati was the one that helped me completely. Thank you for giving my career back to me.
Several people have asked me, what did you do, where did you go, who did you see? And I'm more than happy to tell them that the Bonati Spine Institute is the place to go.
He said, don't tell me, I'm going to tell you what's wrong with you and tell me if I'm correct. And so he did.
The good news this time is it was not open back surgery.
They did give me my life back.
This scar is this big.
He was a doctor that didn't want to fillet my back open like a fish.
During the whole operation, I was awake. I was talking to the doctor. I saw the operation in the monitor.
He's not really cutting muscles, he's just pushing them away.
Immediately after the procedure, I was able to stand straight again, and I had zero pain.
Well, he did the surgery on the left side, and a week later, I was back in the gym.
Don't wait until you're on that downward slide where you can't even function anymore.
When somebody can help you to where you can recover and where you can do the things that you were able to do before, you just become thankful.
I can't thank the Bonati Institute enough for giving me my life back.
It just opens up doors that you thought were closed.
I love you, Doc.
Welcome back to American Medicine Today. So a Maryland candidate for Attorney General has announced his intent to proceed with an investigation into the questionable legal activities of Dr. Anthony Fauci and the National Institute of Health. Joining us to discuss is Michael Peroutka, former county councilman in Maryland and current Attorney General candidate. Welcome to the program.
Well, it's great to be with you. Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
While you're out campaigning for district attorney, what possessed you to call for this investigation into Fauci?
Well, just as a quick word of background, for more than 2.5 years now, a health crisis, and I use that term with some air quotes, I guess you probably heard, has been used as a background and is not an excuse to deny Marylanders and people across the country the exercise of their God-given constitutionally protected rights to assemble, to worship, to have autonomy over their own bodily decisions, et cetera, to run their own business as well as to move about freely. So all of at the center of this health crisis is a character named Anthony Fauci, who has some very questionable activities. And Senator Rand Paul has introduced evidence of the fact that he's funded gain of function research, and he could have profited personally from grants that he directs, et cetera. So in addition to all these things, Fauci, way back early in this saga, actually lied, and he admitted that he lied about the need for face masks. He said there was no need for face masks. Then he changed his tune and said there was, and then he said he lied because he was concerned about the supply of face masks. Well, this should have been the end of the story at that point, because that is just so obnoxious. But Fauci himself has actually had the temerity to call himself science as a result of these statements and these positions. The full weight of the police state, of the police power of the federal government and the state governments and county governments were brought to bear on people and cost them their livelihoods and their lives, et cetera. And this apparently was fraud and misprison of a felony, et cetera. There's a lot of things involved here, and it just begs investigation. So as Attorney General of Maryland, I will do that. I will bring an investigation against Fauci. And by the way, all others who have falsified medical statements.
We have a total destruction of our national economy because that fraudulent behavior about that you need to stay at home and then force the people to do that, force these masks that they are absolutely absurd because none of the masks will contain the virus. And the whole thing is a charade. Unfortunately, we need somebody like you to try to put this thing together.
Well, Doctor, I couldn't agree with you more, and I am willing to be the person and spearhead the investigations into this and penalties and panel grand juries, et cetera. Interestingly, I'd like to make the point that all what they call the science and the medicine of this was absolutely self-contradictory, and I would call it nonsense. And I think you would probably agree. But actually, legally, it didn't even matter because I hold in my hand a copy of the Constitution of the state of Maryland. And Article 44 of our Declaration of Rights, which is the state equivalent of the U.S. Bill of Rights, actually says this. It says that the provisions of the Constitution of the United States and of this state, Maryland, apply as well in times of war as in times of peace, and no violation thereof or deviation therefrom based on a plea of necessity, like a health emergency, or any other plea is valid. So, I mean, our Constitution specifically says that no health emergency, no emergency, there is no exception to the Bill of Rights. There's no COVID-19 exception. There's no exception at all to the Bill of Rights. So all of these things, even if the science was perfect, were not lawful, and they need to be redressed, because if they're not redressed, they will have been validated by the people. Yes. And these people are not done with you. They're coming again.
Everything that Anthony Fauci did is just plain old evil. He cost so many people their lives. He destroyed the economy. He ruined lifelong careers of families. He trashed everything, and they did it as a political game against President Trump. So Anthony Fauci directed Trump in that way, and so did the NIH. They hid information. They pretended China had nothing to do with it, and they all knew better.
Well, I believe that it's not only Kimberly a political game. These things amount to treason. These are acts of war. And these are acts of war, and they need to be dealt with that way. And Thomas Jefferson has said, if a nation desires to be ignorant and free, it desires what never was and never will be. And if we are ignorant of things like our Constitution and these constitutional provisions, we will not be free. We need the Constitution. I had a mentor that used to tell me the Constitution is not a self-enforcing document. And therefore, it needs champions. It needs people to understand it, to articulate it, to defend it. And we need a citizenry that's armed to do that, armed with knowledge and well, in fact, armed. And we need an attorney general, a prosecutor who's willing to stand up and do it. And I will do that.
But there are situations that we cannot correct. One of the major trouble is the amount of mortality that happened to the population. Remember the first infection of virus, the same coronavirus under Cyrus did not create the damage, but yes, was a population that died. It was around 300,000 people that they died, and the media never talk about that one, and the politicians never say anything, and Obama shut his mouth totally and give orders saying, do not talk about this one. It's an epidemic problem. It's going to go away. Here, they create an issue so enormous that a lot of people die. Was a communistic type of an approach.
That and a bioweapon.
Back in 2017, Fauci made a speech to Georgetown University in which he said there was going to be a surprise outbreak during the last year of the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. He's actually on record as saying there's going to be a surprise outbreak. Well, what kind of language is that? It certainly wasn't a surprise to him if he predicted it. I would love to ask him that on the witness stand.
He is sly as a fox. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you so much for your intent to bring criminal charges against Dr. Anthony Fauci. Thank you so much, Michael Peroutka, former county councilman in Maryland and current attorney general candidate.
Patriotsforperoutka.com. Thank you.
You got it.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank
Michael.
you for joining us. Mm-hmm. Well, that wraps up this episode of American Medicine Today. We'll be back next week, 4 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax. And if you've missed a previous episode, check out our YouTube page under American Medicine Today. If you have any comments or questions, contact us at the number below. You can tweet at Dr. Bonatti using hashtag American Medicine Today or hashtag AMT. We would like to hear from you.